Welcome back. It goes without saying, football is a brutal sport. And if we're honest, that's why some people love it, right? Now, while fans enjoy watching the action from the stands or on TV, there are real-life risks for the players on the field. Just in the last 2 seasons, we saw some pretty scary moments involving Dolphins QB Tua Tagovailoa. He suffered multiple concussions during the 2022 season, and most of us will not forget when Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest on the field during a Monday Night Football game last January. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell says the league is still working on efforts to improve health and safety, including rule changes and tweaks to preseason training. Beginning in 2016, the NFL committed to increasing safety during kickoffs, a part of the game it found was the most dangerous. The league made additional changes to kickoffs ahead of the 2018 and 2023 seasons. Goodell said the league has seen a drop in injuries following the rule changes. The number of concussions dropped more than 30% between 2015 and 2021. But over the last 2 seasons, it's ticked up again. Concussions, and specifically CTE, have been a focus for the league as we learn more about the condition. The NFL introduced a concussion protocol in 2011. And if a player is diagnosed, he must follow a 5-step process before returning to play. You're seeing that on your screen right now. The NFL reviews the process each year. The league's vice president of player health and safety, Jeff Miller, says more changes could be on the way to address the problem.
Whether it be the plays of the game, the equipment, training, and many other things, we take a look at all the data and pursue changes to the game where we see where there are risks and there are opportunities for us to make modifications.
The NFL is also using artificial intelligence to reduce injuries. The league services to create the data to run simulations to better predict and prevent injuries.
There is a potential to revolutionize not just health and safety in the NFL, but also to address injury detection and prevention in other organizations, whether that's other helmeted sports and sports leagues, but hospitals, physical therapy centers, military, as well as businesses as well.
Michael Nathans joins our roster. Michael is the CEO and co-founder of WhisperSom. He's studied the connection between CTE, concussions, and sleep apnea. And I'm joined, of course, still with Paul Crane, also Lou. CTE is one of the most consequential disorders associated with football. You got repeated head injuries, even if they don't cause concussions, they're considered the main risk factor. And I wanted to pull up this quote because Dr. Ann McKee, the medical community's leading expert on traumatic brain injuries, said, quote, "Every 2.6 years of football at any level doubles your risk for CTE. And the longer you play and the higher level that you play, the greater your risk." So, Michael, I mean, this is what you've studied. Tell us, what does...
Well, the research indicates that when concussions happen, players get what's called central apneas, where they stop breathing for periods of time. And when you stop breathing and your lungs stop sort of pumping that cerebral spinal fluid, it doesn't wash the toxins out of your brain that's supposed to happen when you sleep. And those toxins accumulate over time and form these clusters of tau protein. And on autopsy, the frozen sections of brains of players with CTE look very similar in this regard to patients who had Alzheimer's disease. Wow. So those clusters are building up because of the lack of the washing out process at night when breathing stops. And that happens typically after concussions.
I mean, Paul, earlier I mentioned, how kickoffs are the most dangerous part of the game. But of course, we have to talk about the line of scrimmage. We were chatting about this earlier. You've interviewed so many former players. How do they describe the violence that's occurring at this point?
One of the things that stuck with me forever is a former first-round draft pick who was a defensive end in the National Football League once told me, playing on the line of scrimmage in the National Football League is like being in a car accident without your seatbelt on every snap from scrimmage. And another player I spoke with that really affected me was Kevin Turner, who played for 8 years with the Eagles and the Patriots after being a fullback at the University of Alabama. He came down with ALS, and he said special teams, running full speed, concussions is really what gave him his head injuries. He said they used to call it being dinged, and a player would then go back on the field and play again after getting his wits about him. Those dings were concussions, and multiple concussions has become a major problem. Kevin Turner passed away in 2016 from ALS.
Lou, you know, I mentioned this earlier also about the incorporation of artificial intelligence to try to tackle, you know, no pun intended here, but the situation at hand. What do you make about the technology, the introduction of this to be able to combat this issue that is, you know, plaguing the league?
Yeah, what I'm happy about is when we have meetings about this, I think the big thing is technology, definitely data-driven for sure. We're seeing that across the league. We're seeing it across sport, but primarily in the NFL. Why? The players are getting bigger. They're getting stronger, faster. And I think that, you know, the technology will help, think in product equipment, safety mechanisms to help them when they are injured. And also to prevent the injury up front. So we think that it ticked up, but overall it's down like 33%. I think you were saying 30%, but north of 30% over 10 years. So I think we're going in the right direction, but technology, data-driven, it will get better as long as we can stay vigilant and make sure that we're on top of it.
Michael, I see you nodding your head, and, you know, incorporating the technology, also, you know, the updated, if you will, concussion protocol from the NFL. Is it good enough in your view? Do you agree with that this is headed in the right direction?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, a 30% reduction in concussions is significant, you know, and they're unavoidable, I think. I think what's important is the standard of care during recovery. And I think it should include monitoring for apneas during the night and treatment if indicated. And that could go a long way to reducing that plaque buildup over time. It's really important. Even 5 apneas an hour, that's considered mild. However, you know, in an 8-hour sleep night, what is that? 40 a night, 280 in a week. Do the math. It's not good. And if it's higher than that, you know, every time you stop breathing, not only does your cerebral spinal fluid stop flushing out those toxins in your brain at night, but your heart rate spikes, you release epinephrine because your body's panicking and thinking you're suffocating, and it sets off a whole host of bodily functions that you don't want while you're sleeping.
Paul, why do players continue to put themselves through this, knowing what we know?
These players love this game, and in all too many cases, they literally give their lives to it. But all of them, through the years, have told me they sign up for getting sore knees or crick in their neck for the rest of their lives, but they love the game.
It sounds like from Lou and Michael that, you know, we're headed in the right direction, which of course to just minimize the risk at play here. But certainly a conversation that will continue to go down as we learn more from the science, the research that Michael, that you've been doing, and piecing together ways to make this safer for the players. Michael, Nathan, thank you so much for joining us to share your insight, and still to come, folks.